Hey everyone, I'm Ashes,
And I'm Will.
and
And
this
this
is
is
Ashes
Ashes
and
and
Will
Will
Do
Do Disney.
Disney.
Each week, one of us will tell the other the history, facts, and stories behind the rides and attractions of Disney that have made special memories for generations.
Keep in mind that Ashes and Will Do Disney is not affiliated with or employed by the Walt Disney Company, and our views and opinions do not reflect theirs.
Now it's time to sit back, relax, and put on your ears because it's time for Ashes and Will Do Disney. And here we are for episode 3. We've done the first two, trudging along. How you feeling so far?
I am having a lot of fun with this. I really like it.
Me too. Me too. It's been a lot of fun looking into the things that I know somewhat surface level about, but finding out more things beyond what I thought I knew.
Yeah, just starting to do research for this, we go in and I was like, oh man, like if we run out of rides to cover, like, are we going to have enough material for the podcast? And I feel like we've just opened a can of worms and gone deeper and deeper and deeper. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much Disney stuff. So I'm really excited to cover more and more of it.
Me too. Me too. Any fun things Disney wise that you've come across this week?
So I wanted to do something with you before we start listening to what you have to share with us. And
Okay.
I didn't tell you about this. So I was on the Disney World app trying to get us some Disney World reservations for our upcoming trip, trying to book some dinners and whatnot.
Sure.
And I came across this app where you get to play games, and Disney trivia is on there, so that way if you're bored waiting in line, something like that, Disney has an app. So I thought it would be fun to do some Disney trivia with you real quick to start.
Okay. Now, is this a separate app from the Disney World
It's
app
called
or?
Play Disney.
Okay.
So, but I found it like the Disney World app had like a button you could click
Takes you
that
to it.
links over to it. Yeah, you could just
Okay.
download it. So, your topics are, I'll let you pick from film/TV trivia or characters trivia.
Let's start with characters.
Okay. I haven't done this yet, so there's 10 questions. See how good you are. Okay. Kristoff takes Anna to meet his adoptive family during Frozen. Live at the Hyperion. What kind of creatures are his family members?
Rock trolls.
Trolls. Yeah, that was easy. I hope they get a little harder. Granted, these are probably made for kids, but still.
We'll see.
Benny is Roger Rabbit's Toon Taxi Cab friend, but who is the cab that takes guests for a spin on Roger Rabbit's cartoon spin? I have no clue.
I have no clue. I thought
Do
it
you
was
want
Benny.
me? Do you want? I read you the choices.
Yeah, give me some choices.
So it's Kenny, Lenny, Jenny, or Denny.
Let's go with Lenny.
Lenny was right.
Pure
Good
guess.
guess.
Pure guess. I thought it was Benny.
I'm glad. I was like, oh, I hope these aren't all too easy. And then the next one, I was like, no clue. I'm probably going to mess up this pronunciation, so bear with me. Which Jedi volunteers to go defend the planet Kashyyyk?
Kashyyyk.
Kashyyyk? Sure, not too bad. Do you want your choices?
I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure it's Yoda.
Well, that's one of the choices. You want that one?
Yeah,
Otherwise,
let's
it
go
was
with Yoda.
Obi-Wan, Mace Windu. Oh my gosh, I can't even.
Just go with Yoda.
Yoda's right. Again, I know just about nothing about
Yeah,
Star
so
Wars.
in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, he goes to help out Kashyyyk. That's where the Wookiees are from.
Oh, okay.
And then they get ready to execute Order 66, which is the Emperor getting ready to wipe out the Jedi, but Yoda, being Yoda, stops the Stormtrooper who's about to kill him.
Cool. I understood Yoda, Stormtrooper, and Wookiee, and that was about it. So.
I mean, I explained what Order 66 was.
Whatever. Clearly, we need to watch all those. What character ends up rescuing Woody, Buzz, and the rest of Andy's toys from the Tri-County landfill in Toy Story 3?
What are the choices?
Emperor Zurg, Aliens, Stinky Pete, or Sid?
The aliens.
Yep. I kind of hope you get one of them wrong. Okay, the characters Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear from Splash Mountain were first introduced in the Southern Fables written by what author?
Aesop.
It's not even a choice.
No.
Walt
No, it's
Disney.
definitely not Aesop's Fables. That's way too late.
I was like, Walt Disney, Mark Twain, A. Milne, or Joel Chandler Harris?
Let's go with Joel Chandler Harris.
Right
Mainly just because
again.
I'm not familiar with that name, so I'm familiar with all the other names, and I know they didn't write Song of the South stories. So,
Well, oh, look, this one popped up with a fun fact. Did you know the tales of Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear were originally published in the publication once known as Atlantic Constitution?
oh,
Okay. Maurice's Treats was created to offer refreshments and snacks to to fantasy fairy visitors in Disneyland Park. Who is Maurice?
are there choices?
Yes.
Okay, what are the choices?
Belle's father from Beauty and the Beast, the protective horse from Tangled, the coachman from Pinocchio, or the wicked cat from Cinderella?
Belle's dad.
Right again, Will. This one also has a fun fact. Maurice is an inventor who is called Papa by daughter Belle in Beauty and the Beast. I don't feel like that was a very fun fact, but
That was a pretty basic thing.
yeah. That was like you saw the movie. Okay. What kind of toy is Buzz Lightyear?
And he's a space ranger.
Yeah, that one was easy. No fun fact. Okay, three questions left. In celebration of her 90th anniversary, when did Minnie Mouse receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame?
What are the choices? This one might get me.
2008, 2017, 2020, or 2018?
And it's in celebration of her 90th birthday.
It says her 90th anniversary.
Okay. So let's go with 2018.
Yes. Another fun fact. Disney chairman and CEO Bob Iger and global pop star Katy Perry officially presented Minnie Mouse with her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Woohoo!
That was cool. I didn't know that.
That is cool.
In Frozen, Prince Hans of the Southern Isles arrives to Arendelle with the Duke of which kingdom?
Wesselton.
There's Weaselton, Weaseltown, Wesseltown, or Wesselton.
It's pronounced Wesselton.
Town or Ton?
Ton.
Yes. Look, they were all just a couple letters different. You had to be very specific.
I know, but remember he makes a big old deal about it. It's Wesselton, not Weaseltown.
Oh, I know. What is the name of the theater on Sunset Boulevard that features performances from Disney characters such as Belle and Beauty and the Beast?
I think I know, but what are the choices?
Disney's Hollywood Theater, Sunset Showcase Theater, Theater of the Stars, or Fairy Tale Amphitheater?
So it's not what I thought it was. What was the first choice again?
Disney's Hollywood Theater.
Let's go with that one.
Last question, and you got it wrong.
Oh!
It was Theater of the Stars.
Oh.
I'm glad we could get you on one.
90% though, that's not bad.
Yep, 9 out of 10. So, okay, I just thought that was something fun. Maybe we can do more of those later.
That was fun.
Cool. So what do you have for me today?
Okay, so when I talk to you about animal themes at Disney, what's your first thought?
Well, I think of Animal Kingdom.
Exactly. The Animal Kingdom, which opened in April of 1998, and that opened at Disney World. But the first section with an animal theme was Adventureland and Disneyland.
Cool.
Okay. Now we're going to be talking about a boat ride with bad jokes.
The Jungle Cruise.
The Jungle Cruise. I figured that was going to be a good one. We've got the movie coming up on July 30th.
I know. I am excited for the movie.
I am too. That's one we're going to premiere access for. We're not going to wait for it.
I know, and I have to work all weekend, so you have to wait to watch it.
So we do have to wait for it. That's okay, though. A couple little fun facts about it. Disneyland Paris is the only park without some version of the ride.
Oh, boring Disneyland Paris.
And the Jungle Cruise has been around since the park opened on July 17th, 1955.
Okay.
When the ideas of Disneyland started to take fruition, Walt and his Imagineers made a list of potential attractions. Many rides didn't even make it to development. They were either too ambitious, too much money, or they didn't make much sense for a Disney attraction. Jungle Cruise initially fell into the category of rides that didn't make sense.
I mean, I can understand that. It's not necessarily like a fairy tale kind of thing, so okay.
And
But
especially when we get a little bit more into it, you're going to hear a little bit more of why it didn't quite seem like a Disney ride.
okay.
So Disneyland separated into 4 main lands. We have Frontierland, Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, and Adventureland.
Okay.
All of the lands seem to have a clear goal in mind of what they wanted to be, but Adventureland lacked that characteristic. But Walt did have an idea of what he thought adventure should be. He associated adventure with travel to exotic and tropical places,
Okay.
which I think that's kind of what we associate our adventures with, is exotic and tropical places.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Walt wanted people to be able to travel to places like Africa and Asia, and the idea of Adventureland was that when they walked in under that sign, they felt instantly transported. So the idea is you're not in California anymore. You take that step over the threshold into Adventureland, now you're in Africa, you're in Asia, you're in these tropical environments.
Yeah, I totally get that vibe too whenever we go there.
Any ideas where Walt got the idea for the Jungle Cruise?
Gosh, I have no clue. Did he go on a Jungle Cruise
Not
himself?
necessarily. But he did have a docuseries called Walt Disney's True Life Adventures.
I did not know that.
Neither did I.
I mean, I knew about his science one clearly, but...
Right, obviously, based on your Space Mountain
Yeah.
research. But he had one docuseries special called The African Lion, which premiered in 1955. And that examined the quote-unquote dog-eat-dog horrors of nature.
Ooh.
It gave an idea of only the strong survive. And it focuses on the lion as the king of the jungle, taking what it wants when it wants, which is particularly shown in a scene where a lioness is hunting a wildebeest.
Getting some Lion King vibes here.
Right.
Scar and...
Now, Walt liked the documentary highlights of different species all sharing the same environment and the tension and unease that it caused. On top of the drama, essentially, in the animal kingdom, he also liked the scenery of Kenya and what is now Tanzania. So Walt Disney wanted to recreate this scenery and atmosphere in Adventureland. He wanted the guests to experience nature at Adventureland. So that was the whole idea of Adventureland. It was going to be nature, it was going to be beautiful scenery, and seeing animal life in its raw form.
Yeah. I think Adventureland is where we met Moana, too.
It is.
Clearly, this is well before that, but...
Correct. Well before Moana meeting.
But tropical, you know.
Yes. Yes. Now, this is in California. So we can't have these super tropical exotic things from Africa and Asia. So Walt needed to come up with some man-made structures to recreate the sensation of being in an exotic land.
Okay.
Construction for these man-made objects isn't as easy as it sounds.
I don't think any of it sounds easy.
Oh, especially in the 1950s and 1960s.
Yeah, for sure.
It went beyond normal construction of the time. Being on a construction team at Disneyland sounds like an ideal job, because Disney is going to need ongoing construction for decades to come. And getting a job there probably means you're set for life. But at the same time, most construction workers in the 1950s and the 1960s were used to doing standard brick and mortar. And construction at Disney doesn't just involve putting together walls and buildings. It required creating man-made structures that are realistic recreations of far-off destinations. On top of all that, there is a very tight budget. And even though the construction crew for Disneyland were highly skilled and experienced, they had never had to make walls that looked like Africa and Asia. So basically, the construction workers are in a pickle to build something standard that passes inspection codes in the state of California, but they also have to create something unique that gives guests the feeling that they aren't in California.
Yeah.
Not a job I'd want to take, honestly.
Yeah, no kidding. Sounds a little hard.
And maybe in today's standards it wouldn't be as hard.
Right.
I'm probably still something that isn't quite the easiest thing in the world to do, but probably easier than the 1950s and 60s.
I would imagine back then anyone who's a construction worker probably doesn't have the same kind of wealth as, you know, some people, in the sense that what's the chances that a construction worker has been to Asia or Africa before this? Like, they didn't have the internet to go Google some pictures and be like, cool, so we want it to look like this. Did they even have a whole lot of colored photographs back then? I actually have no clue when we switched from black and white photos to color.
I would imagine, because Snow White was in color.
Yeah, so I would think, but still, that's got to be really hard to imagine a place that you've never been and recreate it just off a picture.
Exactly. And especially working for Walt Disney, who's demanding perfection.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you have a lack of experience? You've got the talent, but they don't have the experience. You call in the big guns. So Walt called on Admiral Joseph Fowler. Have you ever heard of Joseph Fowler?
No.
Neither had I until I was looking into this. So Fowler was a graduate of the Naval Academy and also earned his degree in naval architecture from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He was a renowned shipbuilder. He helped build the USS Lexington and the USS Saratoga. And in 1948, he retired from the Navy. Somewhere along the lines, him and Walt Disney met, and the two became very buddy-buddy, so Walt recruited him to help with the construction of Disneyland. And the reason he picked Fowler, based on his experience with building in the Navy, is Fowler had a reputation of creating something out of nothing. And he approached every outlandish idea with the simple response of, "Can do."
I like it.
It didn't matter how crazy or detailed or intricate it was. If Walt said, "I need you to do this," Fowler said, "Can do."
It's a good employee.
It is a good employee and a right pick. Now we're getting to the opening of Adventureland. And the initial opening of Adventureland would feature only the Jungle Cruise ride.
Not much of a land, per se.
Right, exactly. You walk in there and there's one thing to do in there so far. And Walt didn't exactly know what the main goal for the Jungle Cruise was going to be. Because initially, he wanted guests to interact with live wild animals.
Sounds safe.
Well, not necessarily being up close in front of them.
Gotcha.
But he wanted live animals to be on the attraction.
Understandable.
And what he loved about the African lion, remember, was that all of the animals shared the same living space, and that's what he wanted for the Jungle Cruise attraction. There's a man by the name of Harper Goff. He's an employee working on the project, and he had a different vision for the ride. He wanted to base the ride off of a movie called The African Queen. The basic concept of this movie dealt with two missionaries delivering supplies on a small riverboat with a rough around the edges captain. Naturally, there's danger and scenarios that require a harrowing escape. There was concern that a ride based on this movie would lose relevance too quickly. Even though today The African Queen, which I haven't seen,
never even heard of,
but it is considered one of the most culturally significant movies ever made. So it might be one we need to check out.
Yeah.
So Goff presents this idea to Walt Disney, and the ride would feature a riverboat ride that included the wild animals that Disney envisioned. The riverboat captain would serve as a protector and a narrator, creating the illusion that there was danger lurking at any moment while pointing out the animals placed throughout the ride. But there's still one problem. Is it feasible to actually do this ride with live animals? Now remember, we talked about Animal Kingdom opened up in 1998.
Yeah.
And the Imagineers have showed us that they can do an attraction with tourists interacting with live animals But that doesn't mean it wasn't a major concern in the 1950s.
Yeah, but I mean, the intricacies, which we'll get to eventually in this podcast, I guarantee, that have gone into making the Animal Kingdom Safari ride what it is just absolutely astonishing. They have a whole TV series about it on Disney Plus.
Right,
And
right under the
it
National
is-
Geographic section.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I mean, it's mind-boggling today, you know, in 2021. So, yeah, 7 years ago.
Exactly. So the first problem, though, with these animals is even though they're trained, like, with food, live animals are on their own schedule. They're not on a human schedule. We look at 1998, the Kilimanjaro Safaris ride in the Animal Kingdom. The way they solved this problem is they had a lot more space to work with and a lot more animals that they could use because we're in a different time now. So it ensures that with the space and animals placed out at different points and junctures of this ride, that guests get to see some sort of animal. Disneyland did not have the same technology or the same amount of space. Most of the animals Disney wanted for the ride were nocturnal animals. That doesn't work well for a park that runs during the daytime.
Yeah, probably not.
The other problem was not being able to ensure that animals stay where they're supposed to.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that one.
Right, you look at, I don't think you've been on the Kilimanjaro Safari ride yet, have you?
Which one is that? The
That's the one where you get on the live tram and drive
Yeah,
around and look at the
I
live
did it
animals.
with Sonia.
You did do it with Sonia. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Because you didn't go that first trip to Disney World. You
No,
stayed
I
behind.
didn't, but Sonia and I did go.
Okay, good. So you've been on that.
Yeah.
And they obviously have it where it doesn't look like they're separated out, but there are clearly means to keep those animals separated
Yeah,
from each other
it's
that
actually
don't
really
need to
cool
interact.
what they do.
So Walt looked at the use of live animals from a different perspective. The idea of Disneyland was that it was like walking into a movie. Movies use live animals all the time for the cute factor. And Disney thought the concept would translate easily to the theme park stage as opposed to a sound stage. Eventually, Disney started to bend on his ideas, and he brought up that they could bring the animals to life by creating realistic caricatures of the jungle animals. We talked a little bit about this in our last episode, that the giant squid used for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea looked extremely lifelike.
Yeah. For
Imagine-
its time, at least. Yeah.
Right, for its time. Imagineers didn't like the idea because they worried that making a realistic model of the animals would make them look lifeless. Animatronics were argued against because at the time, there wasn't a known way to hide the electronics that would be needed to make the animals move. Walt argued that this issue could be resolved by proper placement of the animals to hide what powered them.
Yeah, makes sense. Rocks, bushes, trees.
Exactly, and so you have these Imagineers that say, no, it's too hard, and Walt saying, maybe it's hard, but it's not impossible.
I feel like that just reminds me of like Pixar, like when we watch the Pixar story and how literally every single movie that came about, the, director or whomever from Disney would come along and be like, okay guys, so this is what we need. And then they had to develop the technology just to make the movie.
To make it work.
Yep.
And not impossible, but difficult.
Yeah, it seems to be a theme that has stuck with Disney.
Sure.
Which I like.
I think so too. I think that's great that they don't just say, no, this is too hard, so we're not going to do it. They approach it from a standpoint of, it's difficult, but we can do it.
Yep, they make it work.
Obviously, when you open up a ride, there's going to be problems with it.
I mean, sure.
We've been on the Jungle Cruise a few times. What color is the water?
Gross, murky, brown.
It's a gross, murky brown.
Yeah.
That's not natural, though. The water's actually really clean. But remember, the whole idea of Disney's rides is you're supposed to feel like you're transported. So they artificially color the water to look extremely dirty.
Okay, makes sense.
But in the 1950s and 1960s, the agent used to color the water also created a sludge on the animals that made the basic parts of the machinery break down.
Oh, bummer.
Aside from electrical problems, what do you think was one of the biggest problems for the Jungle Cruise?
Oh gosh, I have no clue.
Remember in the very first episode when we talked about the history of Walt Disney, how he was hyper-focused on every detail,
Yeah.
including trees?
Oh, yeah.
He would get rid of trees if they weren't in character. So vegetation proved to be one of the biggest issues of the ride. While people can double time to meet the demands of getting the park opened on time, make sure electrical things work, nature doesn't care what people want.
Make a tree grow faster.
Exactly. Nature doesn't care what you want. Nature's on its own schedule. You can't force it to do what you want it to do. Growing plants takes time. Now we're going to meet a man by the name of Bill Evans.
Okay.
So have you ever seen those commercials or cards where everything is to the stars? So the doctor to the stars, or the plumber to the stars, pet sitter to the stars.
The plumber to the stars. Yes, I get what you're saying.
A lot of people use that term to bolster their resume. Maybe they only did one job for a famous person, but they put it on their card that they were the so-and-so to the stars.
Yeah.
Bill Evans was a horticulturalist.
Okay, to the stars.
To the stars, but Bill Evans actually meant it. So he was a member of the Merchant Marines, and while he was a member, anytime he went somewhere, he would collect exotic seeds for his family garden. And as time went on, he suggested to his family that they offer their exotic plants to rich people.
Okay.
So essentially taking these rare plants and selling them for a high price to celebrities and rich people.
I mean, I'm actually kind of a giant plant nerd, so I can appreciate this.
Right, exactly. We've got our tropical plant that we've somehow managed to keep alive for several years.
Yeah. How many times do I just show up after going grocery shopping or anywhere with a random plant?
I mean, there's 4 over by our window that I can see right now.
I know. 4 living ones currently.
4 living ones currently. They're not gone yet.
There have been many who haven't survived.
Yeah, there are definitely more than 4 that have not been so lucky.
Or are you telling me that my tree won't grow with me watching it?
Your thumb's not as green as it should be.
Hey.
For as much as you buy.
I needed to make sure my trees came back to life.
Now, Bill Evans was so good at what he was doing with exotic plants that he serviced many celebrities. His knack for unique gardening caught the attention of Walt Disney, and he provided the plants to landscape Disney's Holmby Hills estate. Disney knew Evans was the man to handle the vegetation for the Jungle Cruise. While Evans could work within the confines of what nature would allow, the forests in the Jungle Cruise were too thin. Here's the fun story of how they discovered that the forests were too thin.
Okay.
Keeping in mind, we've said it several times throughout this so far, the idea of Disneyland is to transport you and make you feel like you're not where you actually are.
Okay.
So the idea of the Jungle Cruise is to make you feel like you're actually on a Jungle Cruise.
So you don't look through the trees and see the castle or the carousels or anything else.
Right. So something much worse happened, though. There's a man by the name of Marty Sklar, a construction developer for the company. One day he was late, and he was in a rush to get in the parks. So he parked his car illegally near the cliffs of the Jungle Cruise. The whole idea is to make people feel like they're not where they are.
Okay.
It's hard to feel like you've been transported to the jungles of Africa when you can see a car parked near the cliffs. Marty Sklar parked his car. People on the ride looked over and could see through the trees and see his car.
Oh, bummer.
Walt wasn't too happy. Marty Sklar never parked his car illegally again.
I bet.
So Disney pondered one day if they could make the trees taller by essentially adding an artificial trunk to them.
What?
Well, trees can't grow faster than you want them to.
Yeah.
They're going to take their time. So they came up with the idea of essentially putting them on tree stilts to make them taller.
Okay.
So they're live trees, elevated by a fake trunk.
I know, you just have the whole root system and everything.
Well, that's where Bill Evans came in and used his green thumb and figured out how to make it work.
Wow, cool, I'm impressed.
Bill Evans also used his creativity. It's California, there's lots of orange trees. And he figured out that turning the orange trees upside down made it look like they were tangled jungle vines and roots. So he took a non-exotic plant and made it look exotic.
And hung trees upside down?
He hung trees upside down.
Wow.
This is how good he was with plants and trees.
Now I feel like the next time we go on the jungle cruise, I'm going to be paying way more attention to all the plants.
We'll be paying attention to all those details. So now we've gotten past the vegetation issue. Now we have to look at the boats. And we have to wonder, can you use an actual boat? Because the initial idea was for the cruise to be a freestanding boat ride.
Yeah.
But you also have to keep your timing consistent.
Yeah.
Because you have certain scenes in the ride that match up with what the narrator is saying.
Yeah.
And when you're using a free-moving boat, you run into the problem of nature again. While it might not be as bad in Florida where you have some rockier waters, you still can't guarantee what the water's going to do and what the weather's going to do to the water, even in California. So untethered boats moving freely downstream could cause traffic backups, basically.
Yeah.
So to remedy this concern, Imagineers controlled the speed of the boats by putting them on a track underneath the water.
I knew they were on a track.
Yes, they are on the track because, again, using them freely can cause backups and mess up the timing of the ride.
Hence the dirty water, so you don't see the track.
So you don't see the track, exactly. The captain can't control the path of the boat, but they can control some of the speed. And even though speed could be controlled, the captains of the boat had to have the timing down exactly. One day, Walt Disney himself rode the attraction, and it was meant to last 10 minutes. When he took the ride, it was over in 4 minutes.
What?
Walt was absolutely appalled because, again, the timing of this is that there are elements to that story that don't make sense if it's not timed correctly.
Well, and you're missing over half the ride. That's crazy.
Right. And, you might be talking about elephants, but you're already moved on to a different section and you're past the elephants because your timing's off.
Someone's gonna get yelled at.
It didn't happen again. They went through extreme training to make sure their timing was down.
Well, that's good.
And since there were tracks underneath the water, this is why the decision was made to make the water artificially dirty. Because again, remember, the idea is for guests to feel like they're actually on a jungle river cruise, an effect that can't be achieved if you can see the tracks that are guiding your riverboat.
Makes sense.
When you think of the jungle cruise, what is the atmosphere you think of?
Cheesy.
It's cheesy, right? It's funny, it's got comedy in it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always like that. When the Jungle Cruise launched, it was a serious presentation. There were no puns, and the ride had a theme of danger at every turn. However, one day Walt overheard a conversation between a mother and son that had Walt reevaluate the whole thing. So the son and his mom were trying to figure out what to do for the day. The son suggested that they go on a ride on the Jungle Cruise. The mother said, "Nah, we've ridden it before." They may as well have slapped Walt in the face.
Oh.
Essentially what they were saying was, if you've rode it once, that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Because it's not different. You did it one time, the excitement's gone.
It's kind of like going to the Renaissance Festival.
Exactly. Our Renaissance Festival, anytime I've gone, does not change. It has the same attractions, and when I go see them, it's the same bit as it was from the first time I went when I was 16 years old.
Yeah, like over 20 years ago.
Right.
I wonder if it's the same everywhere with Renaissance festivals like that.
That's a good question. I have no clue.
Yeah.
No clue.
Anyways, what did Walt Disney do to fix this?
So, guests did love the Jungle Cruise, but it also created a lot of problems. One, guests were losing interest in the fact that it was just a serious educational ride.
Gotcha.
It's meant to produce danger, but it's also just telling you about certain animals. The animals also broke down all the time.
Aww.
Walt once joked that he knows the animals work because he once saw it on TV. So a lot of times Walt was in the park, he didn't see the animals working. So Walt asked a man by the name of Mark Davis to improve the experience. So we have a ride that people are losing interest in because it's not fun, it's just educational.
Mm-hmm.
and it breaks down a lot. So Mark Davis started with illustrating comedic scenes for the animals. One of the most famous scenes being the 4 men cowering on a totem pole trying to escape the horn of a rhinoceros.
Okay.
The original narration was meant to be serious in the tone of a documentary and give that sense of peril. Now it was rewritten to be playfully macabre.
I like it.
Think about today. If someone were to tell you they're going to take away all of the comedy aspects of the Jungle Cruise and make it a serious ride, what would you say?
I mean, yeah, it would be far more boring.
It would be far more boring, and there'd probably be a lot of outcry from fans. I mean, there's outcry from fans anytime they make a change these days.
I was like, they're going to cry no matter what, so...
But think about back then when the ride opened and fans were used to it being a serious ride.
Yeah.
A lot of guests actually spoke out against the changes as they felt taking away the serious nature of the ride for a more comedic tone took away the environment.
I mean, I'm sure it caught people off guard the first time they heard jokes being cracked instead of,
learning about elephants and rhinos.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's crazy to think about that today because we all know in modern times the Jungle Cruise is a funny, comedic ride. But back then in the 1960s when they decided to make the changes, it was a major divisive issue among the guests. I want to do a quick Jungle Cruise spotlight. So it goes into modern times for the ride. We have a book, it's called One Day at Disney. There's also the documentary series about that on Disney+.
Yeah.
We recently got the book, and what One Day at Disney focuses on is the individuals that make the park work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a man by the name of Thomas Self, who is from our neck of the woods in Broomfield, Colorado.
Okay.
And he is an attraction machinist at Disneyland. And most of his work is done at night and underwater.
Wow.
So he's part of a team that inspects the boat's tracks and underwater mechanics of the ride after the park closes. He used to be in the Navy, that's where he learned to dive.
Okay.
His shift is typically from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Okay, I can feel that.
His first job at Disney was a cook at the Plaza Inn on Main Street. And then he left to join the Navy, where he was an electromechanical engineer. He doesn't just work on the Jungle Cruise, he helps maintain all of the water attractions.
Oh, that's cool.
And he works with a crew of 12 dive technicians. That's not where the team ends, though. There are another 50 trained techs, essentially, that are on call during park hours, just in case.
Wow.
So you have his crew of 12 people that work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., making sure everything's working the way it's supposed to, it's all maintained. But then you have a group of 50 people who, if in the middle of the day something goes wrong, there's someone to come take care of it.
I mean, that's good.
Right.
Things happen.
It wouldn't work too well if the ride had an issue and they said, well, folks, we'll open again tomorrow because we don't have anybody coming till 11 o'clock tonight to look at it.
Yeah, and seeing as I work from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m., I know I certainly wouldn't want to come in the middle of the day to help fix something.
That's like your middle of the night.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about the legacy of the Jungle Cruise. Due to the popularity at Disneyland, it was automatically included at Disney World. It's also present in Tokyo and Hong Kong. We have the new movie starring Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt coming out on July 30th. But that was not the original idea for the Jungle Cruise movie.
Oh.
The original idea for a Jungle Cruise movie was going to be a Buzz and Woody buddy comedy.
Oh, I mean, those are two completely different things.
I feel like that would have been like 20 minutes short.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a full-blown movie. But the idea of the new movie is to combine the comedy of the ride with the danger that was inspired by the African Queen. And in addition, it should also provide an additional backstory to the ride.
Well, I'm excited to see it.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this movie. I've been excited for it for a while. It got delayed because of COVID and everything like that, so I'm ready for this movie to come out.
Yeah.
Want to hear some of the famous narration and puns from the ride?
Yes.
Okay.
I love a good pun.
One of them being, I told these guys this morning, but they didn't believe me. They'll get the point in the end. This is in reference to the men climbing the totem pole to escape the rhino. The horn of the rhino is precariously close to the last man's butt. So he'll get the point in the end. There's something you don't see every day. Well, I do, every 15 minutes. Since we are in an area of rare tropical foliage, I'd like to point out some of the plants to you. There's one. There's one.
Aha.
Ha ha! That bamboo can grow to be 6 stories tall. Some people say it can grow to 7 stories, but that's a whole other story.
Ha.
Of all the groups I've taken on this ride, you're the most recent.
Ha.
We've laughed and we've cried. We've almost died. I love you all like family. Now get out. I'm sorry, that was rude. Please get out. So, I wanted to take the approach you took with Space Mountain, and I looked into the dangerous things that have happened on there, or crazy incidents that have happened on the Jungle Cruise. I'm not going to lie, it's not nearly as exciting as what you found about Space Mountain.
I mean, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of other rides that we're going to find something quite as crazy as what I found with Space Mountain. Maybe we can do like the bobsleds or, some of the other like real big thrill rides. But I mean, this is people sitting in a boat.
It is, but
it goes all of 3 miles an hour? Like,
there are still some things that have happened. Again, not near to the extreme that have happened on Space Mountain.
Okay, what do you have?
So, 1, on February 27th, 2020, one of the boats sank with passengers aboard. The fire department had to come in to assist. No one was injured.
Oh, phew.
On March 11th, 2020, a 74-year-old woman fell and fractured her leg getting into the boat.
Oh, womp womp.
And the biggest one, again, not super duper exciting. But in 2012, as guests were disembarking, another boat crashed into the back, causing 2 women to fall, one falling back into her father's chest, and one of the women sued Disney for her injuries, claiming she could not return to work in her field. Could not find the judgment on that case, but that's probably the most exciting one, is one boat crashed into another, some people fell down, and it caused a lawsuit.
Woo! Watch out, world.
Watch out, world. Those are the dangers of the Jungle Cruise. Sail at your own risk.
I like it.
So what are your thoughts on the Jungle Cruise?
I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for the Jungle Cruise because, it was, I'm not going to lie, it's always the ride that we go on because I'm like, cool, well, the line's 5 minutes, let's go on the Jungle Cruise. You're not, walking into Disney World or Disneyland being like, yes, Jungle Cruise. But now I'm actually really excited and really want to go hit it up next time
I've always really enjoyed the Jungle Cruise. I've always had a guilty pleasure for it, I guess. It's always been a really fun one for me. One of the things that always gets me on the ride, no matter how many times I go on it, I was thinking about this the other day, because it's typically pretty spaced on our trips, so I have time to forget what happens on the ride.
Yeah.
And there's a point on the ride, it gets me every single time, where I think we're going by hippos.
I was going to say the hippos in the water.
The hippos in the water, and the narrator makes it out like they're going to splash you.
Yeah.
And every single time I'm ducking down and getting ready to get splashed, because I don't like getting splashed. So I try to minimize it as much as possible. And then you get past the hippos without them ever actually splashing you. You would think one of these times I would remember.
Well, we'll have to see if you remember this next time.
Yeah, we'll see. Even though I'm talking about it right now, I'll still probably duck down.
It's fine. We can play it up to the kids, too, and be like, we've done this before. You're going to get soaked.
Exactly. So even though I can play off my forgetfulness as a joke on them.
There you go. I'm excited to go on it, though, and I'm excited to see the movie.
It'll be a lot of fun. I'm very excited for the movie. I'm very excited for our upcoming trip to look at some of these details that we talked about now.
I'm a little sad, though. The movie might make the wait more than 5 minutes.
And chances are that's going to boost some popularity.
Oh, well, we'll still go.
We'll still go. That's it for this week's episode of Ashes and Will Do Disney.
Don't forget, we need your mouse tails. If you have a funny, weird, exciting, or just a favorite Disney memory, send it to ashesandwilldodisney@gmail.com so we can read them on the show.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Ashes and Will Do Disney. This is a public group to follow. We're also on YouTube at Ashes and Will Do Disney.
Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much for listening, and have a magical day.